Hi YouTube, let's make a cake. Angel food cake. Good morning my YouTube family. Today we're making angel food cake from good old white Betty Crocker Cookbook Deluxe Edition on page 112. So this is going to be a multi-step process here, and the first thing that we're going to do is separate our eggs from our eggs. We got 12 eggs, and what we want to do is separate the yolk from the egg white. Okay, now there's nothing special about this spoon. It is roughly about the size of the yolk. So that's really the only speciality about it. And you don't want yolk, and you don't want shells. So now I need something to put the yolk into. This is a 2-cup measuring cup. This is going to be for our egg whites. Ultimately, we want 1.5 cups of egg white. And it says about 12. Honestly, it's about 11. The yolks can be stored or saved later. And you can make a custard out of them. Alright, so yolks are going there, whites are going here. And we start cracking eggs. Is it safe to do 2 or more eggs in the bowl at a time? It doesn't really matter. Just so long as you don't break the yolk. That's the hard part. These eggs are currently room temperature. That's what the book recommends. Just slowly pull them out, and the attached stuff comes off. At the room temperature. I found once I made them at cold at fridge temp, and that, I don't know what they call it, the sheathing, it sticks to the eggs pretty well. And then I'm cutting a little dangler off on the side after the yolk comes out. Alright, so there's 2. And I'm not going to pour this in. I'm just going to keep it all in here until it's to the right level. Just like that. And try to get all the egg white off the spoon. Cut off the little stranglers. And the yolk goes to the cup. We're at 3. And one thing that I didn't say, but I've already done. Nope, I haven't done it yet. You gotta preheat your oven to 375. So that'll be next on my to-do list. There we go. So I'm gonna preheat the oven. 375. I don't know about you guys, but this is coming up on the middle of June here in Washington State, and there's a nasty cold sinus bug that's been going around. My wife got antibiotics for it, but I honestly don't think it's bacterial. I think it's viral. Cut that off. Cut that off. There we go. And that's that off. Cool. Yeah, room temp eggs, that part that holds onto the egg, it comes off a lot more easily than if it's straight out of the fridge. 4 more to go. That one sprung a leak. That's no bueno. Just gotta scoop all of the egg yolk out now. Luckily it doesn't blend that well. I mean, if you get a little yolk in there, it's fine. Ideally, it's for color control. Alright, got all the yolk out of there. We're sitting at 1 3/4 cup, so I am going to call that good. We'll put the yolk in the fridge, and we won't use the 4th egg. Step 2, in a medium bowl, mix the powdered sugar and the flour and set aside. Okay, medium bowl. Don't get this wet. Later we're going to take the contents of this and scoop it into that. So we need powdered sugar and flour. Powdered sugar, we need 1.5 cups of powdered sugar. Half cup. Okay, so what I'm using is a 1/2 cup and a butter knife as a scraper. So 1.5 cups, right? 1.5 cups powdered sugar. And if you kind of like tap it across the top first and then scrape it, it comes off a lot cleaner. 1. 2. 3. Okay, there's the powdered sugar. Powdered sugar put away. Alright, powdered sugar. Next, 1 cup cake flour. I'm going to interrupt myself real quick to state that oatmeal flour, does not work for angel food cake. Instead, you need to go with the 1-to-1 gluten-free, or just stick with the traditional all-purpose baking flour. Back to our show. Now, I will tell you that the flour that I'm using here is not all-purpose baking flour. This is my wife's blend. I think this is oatmeal flour. I need 1 cup flour. Traditionally, before I went carnivore, I would have used all-purpose baking flour, but as she wants to use alternatives, this is what we got. I think the all-purpose flour actually it makes the cake a little bit more fluffy, but it could just be my opinion. Okay, 1 cup all-purpose flour. Disguised as oat flour. Let's get this put away. Now, the instructions don't actually say to do this, but I'm doing it because I don't like chunks of anything. So I am mixing the flour and the powdered sugar. They probably didn't put it in there just for the sake of conserving space, but it makes sense to stir it with a whisk. It doesn't even have to be that long. Get it mixed up. Originally, I was going to use the flour sifter, but I came back to it, and the flour sifter, the mesh had like fallen down, and so it was just spinning. I was like, what's wrong? I can't figure it out. But after I was done, I got to looking at it and was like, oh, it just needs to be pushed back up. But, okay, we're going to set this aside now. I'm going to put the half cup in here. And do I need the knife? I don't need the knife anymore. So the knife and the whisk are going to the sink. You get set aside. Next, large bowl, beat the egg whites and the cream of tartar. Okay, so we're going to take our egg whites and we're going to pour them into our stand mixer. And again, if you have whisks for the beaters, works a little bit better. If not, put this on, I think it's whisk or beat. Let me check. That. On 10 is whisking, or whipping. Yeah, on 10 it's whipping. So we're gonna let that sit there for a solid 10 minutes and whip. And it'll go from its liquid state to a very foamy, like it's foam throughout. And when you take a spoon, you can literally scoop it out with a spoon. So we're gonna let that do its thing. We need to put a little bit of cream of tartar in it. 1.5 teaspoons cream of tartar. Okay, so we're going to put 1.5 teaspoons cream of tartar. So we're going to let this do its thing for about 10 minutes. We're going to let it get nice and frothy. And then we'll come back and add the sugar and the salt and the vanilla. So this is what it means when they say bring your whisk your eggs until they form a peak. See on the outside of the brim here? See how they're standing up out by themselves? Almost looks like spray foam. It's been about 8.5 minutes. I'm gonna let it go for just a little bit more. All right, and as you can see, it just kind of sits up on itself like that, like foam. Cool. That was a solid 10 minutes, and now what we need to do is turn this back on, and we're going to add 16 tablespoons or a cup of sugar. And then before we finish the sugar, we're going to add the salt and the vanilla. I'll probably do the vanilla first. So I want to use the almonds, so I'll just do 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Cool. Let's get this back on. One teaspoon. Now at 14, we're going to add our salt. Quarter teaspoon. And then we'll go back to the sugar. And 16. We'll give that just a few more minutes to beat and get all the sugar mixed in. Good. I zoomed in a little closer than I wanted for adding the sugar and salt, but that's okay. Alright, so we have our sugar, our salt, our vanilla. This is obviously holding its own at the peak stage. Let's zoom in one more time just to show that. See how it's just kind of like... The idea is you stick a spoon or a fork in there and it forms a peak. Alright, cool. So now we take our previously made flour formula and we're done with the stand mixer. So we're going to open that up and we're going to service this at a later time. That grinding did not sound good. It's really good. Holy smokes. I traditionally use this stand mixer for making my laundry soap. So it's one of those things that I need to keep operating, keep operational. And after I get these beaters cleaned off, we're going to, how do they phrase it? Folding it. We're going to fold the powdered mixture, the powder flour mixture in here. Powdered sugar flour mixture in here. I'm going to fold it. There's one. These eggs turn out really nice. Holy smokes. I've beaten them before, but just at a lower speed. But having it at that whipping speed, really nice. Okay, so we're going to fold in. They say quarter cup at a time. Ideal, I think they just don't want one solid chunk, so we're going to use a half cup. And sprinkle it over the top. Am I zoomed in or zoomed out? I am zoomed out. Okay, let's zoom in just a bit more. So we're going to sprinkle it over the top. Half cup at a time. And I don't want to get that sugar mixed up. Sugar there. And wow, that's really thick. That's perfect. You gotta be careful with the flour too, because if you put too much, when you do this, it'll go up into your face. So I'm going right towards the middle of the bowl, and I'm pulling back towards me. And before I put the next scoop in, I want to make sure that most of the flour, especially the stuff on the bottom, is saturated. Looks good. I'm going to put a little bit more now. Maybe I will do a quarter cup. Just taking little baby scoops or baby chunks. The reason why we're not using the mixer at this point is because if you were to use a hand mixer, it would destroy the foam. But if you continue to use the beaters on this mixer, you're going to end up with flour and stuff everywhere. And one important note to keep in mind is that we are not going to grease our bundt pan. Do not grease the bundt pan. Yes, it's a nightmare taking it out, but it's what holds it. It's what holds it in upside down. This is called a bundt pan. As you can see, it's got little feet. A lot of people will just set the whole thing upside down on a wine bottle. This is a bundt pan, and we're not going to grease it. But when we're done, we're not going to use a metal tool on it either. We're going to use a plastic knife to scrape it off. Right now, slowly. I don't want the book there either. Okay, so we're going to slowly pour this into the bundt pan. When you're doing this, try not to get it down the hole in the middle. Beauty-mous, beauty-mous, very nice. Right, I'm gonna call that good. And then this goes into the oven at 375 for roughly 40 minutes. Put it in for 35, check the temperature, or check the cake. But be careful that when you check it, you don't let the cake collapse. And also be careful at the bottom, don't hold it by the bottom, because as you lift up on the bottom, this whole center thing comes out. Let's zoom out again. Rotate, going into the oven. Okay, and also make sure that your shelf is, this oven actually has a shelf on the very, very, very bottom, like an inch above the burner. I used the one just up from that. Alright, and we're going to set the timer for 40 minutes. Cool, and then we'll come back once the cake's done. Alright, so there's what it looks like after 40 minutes. And honestly, 40 minutes might have been a little bit too long, but the center doesn't look quite done. Traditionally, it's supposed to be mounded, not recessed like that. So I'm gonna give it another 5 more minutes. I'm starting to smell the sugar burn, which traditionally means that it is definitely done. But that center is still recessed. I'm gonna give it 5. Shoot. Let's do a knife test. The idea with the knife test is you stick it in, and if it comes out clean, then you know your cake's done. If it comes out gooey, you got to put it in for longer. I don't know about you, but to me, it doesn't look gooey. It looks clean. So we're gonna take it out. It's not really focusing, is it? Meh. All right, cool. So we're gonna take it out. We're gonna set it in the oven, and you're supposed to let it cool overnight. So we get our pot holders and turn the oven off. See if I can show this to you here. Focus, camera, focus. There we go. And we're gonna flip this over. That's what those little feet were for. But my countertop's cluttered. Ah! 1 moment. Technical difficulties. This over and set it gently onto the countertop. Okay, off. And as you can tell or see, I'm currently working on, wow, that's really blurry. Why is that so blurry? Weird. Anyway, working on repairing my stand mixer. All right, so we ready for the reveal? Here we go. And as I said earlier, this is the what I'm using to pry it apart with. As I said earlier, oat flour does not work so well. As you can see, the cake in the middle, for those that are used to this, the cake in the middle has kind of depressed a little bit instead of being mounded. Traditionally, you want your cakes to be mounded on the top. But everything cured, or everything came together, so at least we've got that going on. The 1-to-1 gluten-free was made by Bob's Red Mill, or whatever you choose to use. Just don't use oat. And try not to have anything with a lot of xanthan gum in it either. The xanthan gum is very chewy, sticky, something like that. Okay. So we've got the sides broken free. Now, I'm going to put that in the sink. No, we're going to keep this out for a second. Get our plate. Set the plate upside down, if I can. Flip it over. And then with my thumbs, push the bottom. Beautiful. Okay, that's kind of the verdict of that. Soak that in water and it'll wash off. And then we take our spoon again. Plastic knife. We're just trying to free up the bottom. I mean, it worked, but honestly, what is it? The all-purpose flour works a lot. let's say 20% butter. And that pops out of the middle. Oh. Very cool. I should have freed up the center, but I didn't. That is an angel food cake, and it's stuck off kilter on my plate. I'm freaking out here. There we go. All right, do a little bit of cleanup and talk myself into going down to Safeway to get some blueberry sauce and blueberries. And there you have it. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see if I can keep them coming. I've got so many different things going on. Motorcycles, cakes, car repair, English grammar. Just, it's weird. But, yeah, we'll catch you later.